and we'll call this meeting to order. Notice is hereby given a regular meeting of the City of San Angelo Development Corporation to be held on January 20th, 8:30 a.m. at the East Mezzanine of City Hall, 72 West College Avenue, for the purpose of considering the following agenda items. So again, we will call this meeting to order at 8:33 a.m., January 20th. We will have a prayer by Director Lassiter.
Good morning. Please pray with me. Heavenly Father, we are so thankful for the many blessings in our lives, in particular the blessing to live in a community such as San Angelo. Please help and guide the folks here and everybody connected to us, whether that be staff, chamber, city leadership, and this board, of course, to make the right decisions to make this community really blossom and to do so in your image. Forgive us when we fail you, Lord. We're trying. Amen.
Thank you, Director Lassiter. Appreciate that. We'll roll into public comment. Issues or items that are not on the agenda may be raised by the public at this time. Citizens should speak from the podium, begin by stating their name, and limit remarks to less than 3 minutes. Board members may request that a discussed item be placed on a future agenda. The board takes public comment on all regular agenda items during the discussion of those items. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
Do we have anyone registered?
No one is registered.
Okay, we'll be able to roll through this. So we'll move to the consent agenda. The consent, obviously approving the meeting minutes. Item B, consider approving the November 2025 financials. C, consider resolution authorizing the investment policy for the City of San Angelo Development Corporation Fund for 2026. And D, consider approving an amendment to the COSA-DC bylaws, Section 8, expenditures of corporate money. Item 2, regarding the City of San Angelo Purchasing Policy and Procedures Manual, and recommending approval by City Council. Any comments, questions?
I don't think we got any information on item C. I know it's probably not a whole lot, but I would be interested to understand the investment policy a little bit.
So pull C.
Please.
Any other questions, comments, any other items to pull?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to approve consent agenda excluding item C. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll go ahead and look at item C. Tina?
Good morning, Board. Tina Deersky, Director of Finance and Corporate Treasurer, and recently Assistant City Manager.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So this investment policy just comes back annually for you all to review and approve. The public funds are governed by the Public Funds Investment Act, which emphasizes security and yield. Excuse me. As far as this investment policy goes, there were no changes, I don't think, Ryan, except for maybe a couple of the brokers.
Yeah, I think they added one broker, Alamo Capital, and it's in the resolution.
And so we have an investment oversight committee, and this comes with their recommendation on an annual basis. We meet quarterly with them. We have an investment advisor that handles all of our investments and makes recommendations to us as far as how to invest, where to invest. We keep them updated as far as what our cash flow needs are and how, what kind of liquidity needs we think we'll have in the coming year. So that's kind of how we produce this policy with their advice. Did you have any specific questions within the policy, or?
No, I now see the policy. I somehow skipped over it when I was looking through the package yesterday, so my apologies.
No problem.
Looks good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So entertain a motion to approve item C.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We will go into the regular agenda. Item A, discussion regarding future construction and infrastructure to connect Knickerbocker Road, Twin Mountain, and Mertzen Highway. Presentation by Assistant City Manager Shane Kelton.
Well, so far, I'm still doing the same job, so nothing's changed, so. Very good. Yep, we have up on the screen, you can see we kind of have an outline there that kind of shows our future master thoroughfare plan for the city out in the southwest sector. of the city. And you can see the red dotted line there is an extension of Twin Mountain as a major arterial extension across there. And again, it has kind of a weird shape as it loops back around and comes back around and ties back into 67. Of course, this is just, what you're looking at there is very preliminary. It's just kind of us taking a shot out there saying we know we need Twin Mountain to extend. There's some property issues, ownership issues out there that we're trying to avoid as well, with some family land that we are trying to be, cognizant of and not try to just bully our way through the middle of somebody's, family ranch or their property that they've had in the family for years and years. And so as we kind of look at that and where we're crossing the railroad tracks, again, it's kind of best guess at this point. There are going to be some serious considerations as we cross the railroad tracks at an at-grade crossing up in that area. Again, the elevations of the terrain out there are pretty rough as you get out there. And of course, anybody that's been out there, you follow Twin Mountain on out to the end and you look off or you look down back towards Red Bluff Road and you can see all the canyons and everything that you have to try to dodge and move around and get through. So there's going to be some challenges looking at how this thoroughfare kind of moves forward into the future. This kind of goes back when Charlotte Farmer was councilwoman for that district back there. She had asked city staff back then to look at the possibilities of going ahead and extending Twin Mountain all the way through to 67. At the time, we haven't gotten any better. We just can't find the funding to do something like that or find a funding mechanism to do that when you start looking at the cost of this. When you're looking at the cost of the entire design build out, when you're looking at water, sewer, roads, sidewalks, street lighting, all of the components that would go into extending this on out all the way through, it is a ballpark estimate of about 75 million to put all that in. And again, and I say it's a really big ballpark because there is a whole lot of unknowns out there. We haven't had a survey yet. We don't have good LiDAR data in the area, and so we're really just putting in some pretty safe numbers for us to look at when we're looking at that. I think, if we go in and we can get in there and we can actually acquire an easement, or if we can acquire the right-of-way, get in there and really survey it and get some design work going, I really think that we can probably focus those costs down a whole lot narrower than that. But again, right now, that's kind of the ballpark that we have right now for that extension going all the way across. We have come up with some different options as we look at this moving forward. And of course, looking at the most basic option of a preliminary layout and land acquisition, where we just do a survey meets and bounds and acquire the right of way. And, we're looking at, $500,000 to $600,000 kind of in that ballpark for looking at that across there. Another option that we've come up with is also doing all of that, but including engineering design, all the way up to engineering design, to where we have, a shelf-ready project where we're ready to go in case funding becomes available. We're looking, 3.1, 3.2 million, somewhere in there for that phase to get us up to a project where we're ready to go if funding's available. And then, of course, if you break the water in out of that, the water, you're probably to put the water and sewer lines in across there to get all of that tied in, you're going to be in the $25 to $30 million range. Is kind of what we're estimating right now. Again, there's a whole lot of terrain issues that we would have to work through out there, and again, crossing the railroad crossing and things like that. So there's a few unknowns in there, but that's kind of the ballpark estimate on water and sewer. And then, again, the rest of that, that 45, 50 million you're looking at for the streets, sidewalks, lighting, and the electrical, extending electrical services for those street lights, those type of things. That's kind of where we are, kind of costing that out to go ahead and finish the project in full, to have it turnkey and ready to go. So if y'all have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer any.
So is in full to 67, and what is the plan for that stretch that goes north there?
That's, again, that's just part of our master thoroughfare plan. At some point in the future, we would take that on around to Arden Road. And then there has been, of course, the way Arden Heights and some of that's starting to develop up north of Arden, going back up into Buffalo Heights, up into that area, may have to rearrange kind of some of the older thoroughfare plans that we had up in that area, how this would loop around up into that area. But again,
But phase one would be 267.
just phase one is 267.
So you're gonna have to buy that whole ranch, or buy the?
We would
right
probably,
away?
we'd try just to buy the 110 foot of right of way that we need, and that's all we would really like to purchase.
Circle's right around their house, right?
Yeah, it goes around, the Wilkie Estate out there, there's a house in I think the original homestead is kind of right there, at that high point.
And I'm sure you've looked at that pipeline, that's not an option?
Yeah, this area right in here, there's, the old homestead's kind of right in this area, so.
And that pipeline wouldn't be an option?
The
The long straight bare spot, or has it's already been?
That's actually a utility right-of-way right there, so, AEP, I believe that's their
Well, there
right-of-way.
wouldn't way to piggyback on that? Like, it's not that far out of the way.
We couldn't build under it, they may let us build beside it, but we couldn't build under it. I mean, and again, of course, to acquire, it'd just be acquiring the right-of-way at that location versus this. And you could dip down and then come back up a little bit further. Of course, it's crossing the railroad, and of course, that's always the biggest issue, is where and how you cross the railroad. And a lot of times especially we start getting into major highways and intersecting major highways, the further off of the railroad you can get to intersect it, the better, because you don't want that queue sitting right there next to a major highway. So you want to be able to back that queue off the highway. So if you do have the rail arms come down, you're not queuing traffic into a major highway.
That was actually one of my questions. Do you know the approximate distance from the rail line to Sherwood Way?
Right there where you have it on,
Yeah,
where it's shown up there in the red, that's.
Yes, sir.
It's 800, 900 feet, something like that, I believe.
okay. And you think that's adequate for
Th-
queuing of traffic?
That would be adequate for queuing for the most part. I mean, it could get concerning, but we would also signalize that as well, where it meets
Sure.
67, that would be signalized as well. And so we could have some with a dedicated, left turn lane, those type things. You would have a deceleration lane and an exit lane probably as well, coming off of 67 onto that. If you're coming from the west, coming into town, we'd have a decel lane and actually where you could move off to pull. So you could allow for some extra queuing in case you did have an exceptionally long wait time.
It looks like you have 2 rail crossings in the
There's
future plan,
Yeah,
thoroughfare
as
plan.
Appaloosa comes down, Appaloosa in the thoroughfare plan is currently,
I was going to say, is that still the plan?
it's still in the master thoroughfare plan. Now, whether that actually ever gets built or not is a different story, so.
Okay. There's been concern in the past with the planning department about crossing that rail line.
Yeah, no, and it is, and the rail, Texas Pacifico, since they have this rail, I mean, they're very concerned about at-grade crossings as well. There's a huge push nationwide even to try to do away with as many at-grade crossings as possible. It's just, at a point like this where you are so close, to the major roadway, to the rail line right there, an overpass is impractical at that point, because you'd have to be queuing on queuing for the stoplight, on 67,
Yep.
coming off of a ramp. So, not necessarily the most ideal.
What is the
ideal place.
approximate distance of the road from Knickerbocker to Sherwood Way, which I'm assuming is the scope of the $75 million estimate?
It's, yeah, where Twin Mountain ends now, 267 is the scope of the 75 million, and that's, it's probably right at 2 miles of roadway.
2 miles?
Yeah. It's all, if you just shoot it straight across, it's probably 1.5 miles, but by the time you get the curve and all the extras in there, you're probably getting pretty close to 2 miles of road.
And then you mentioned 3.1 million to do the right-of-way acquisition and design so that it would be shovel-ready.
Yes.
Do you have any idea what kind of time frame that might take?
The whole process will probably take, I'm gonna say 18 months. By the time you get the initial surveys, you get out there, you negotiate with the landowners, acquire the right of way, and then go in there, start clearing the right of way and getting the engineering crews out there, survey crews out there to get surveys on it. So
Okay. Have you guys looked at ways to finance this road in the past? I know you mentioned that Charlotte Farmer had,
we have.
That goes way back,
Yeah, it goes way back. We've looked at other things like assessments and other tools like that. But again, there's a whole lot of issues with assessments, and I think also looking at state law, I think state law states that we would actually have to have it in our charter that assessment is one of the tools in our bag for these type of things, and our current charter doesn't mention anything about assessments. So we probably would, for something of that nature, we would probably have to go back and take a look at either revising the charter to do something like that, to be able to assess the adjacent lands.
would that be like
What that cost.
like a mud structure of some kind, or?
No, basically what we do is you look at the adjacent lands that are going to be built out at some point in time, and
Yes.
and you assess whatever the value is per acre or however you want to assess it. The school did the same thing with that lower section. They built the existing section of Twin Mountain up to Southwest. The school built that and assessed all of the adjacent lands to that as well. So,
Okay.
and so that was a mechanism that they used to finance the first phase of Twin Mountain. And so it would be basically the same process where you would assess that per acre or whatever, and as that land sold off, the city would recoup those dollars over
Okay.
time. That's one possible way. We have, and of course, you can always bond it, but again, we have to have the capacity
Yeah.
to do that as well, so.
Yep.
And we have discussed it, Councilman Hebert has also discussed it as well with us as well, about looking at it. Again, it's, and again, it's just about timing and our ability to actually pull the trigger and get it done,
Yes,
so.
funding availability. I understand.
it.
I understand.
At least that right-of-way portion needs to be handled sooner rather than later.
We would prefer to have the right of way, especially as you start looking at all the things that are going out there on 67. It's really starting to build out, so it's gonna either, we're either gonna really hamper somebody's property or business that they've already created, or two, we're going to have to adjust our roadway in such a manner to try to miss what's already started being constructed out there.
What's the relationship with the family on this topic? I mean, has that been?
We have not necessarily broached the topic with the family per se, but just in talking in conversations with some other developers that are much closer, have much closer relations with the family. Those have been discussions that we've had, talking about the development of Twin Mountain and how it's going to move and connect over to 67. So we have not had any direct discussions with the family at this point, so.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions?
I don't have anything else, Shane. Thank you very much.
Shane, thank you. That was great. Great presentation. All All right, we'll move on to the next agenda item B, presentation regarding the quarterly San Angelo Chamber of Commerce Key Performance Indicators and Deliverables Report, presentation by Michael Looney.
Thank you, sir. Good morning to everybody. It's a great day to be in economic development. I am Michael Looney. I'm the VP of Economic. What? We'll need some stronger coffee here. I'm trying to get the team going here. Okay, yeah, use the Pecos. Good morning. Michael Looney, VP of Economic Development with the San Angelo Chamber of Commerce. Going to go over the quarterly report. If I start to wow you with statistics and data that's just not quite what you want at 8:30 in the morning or whatever time it is, 9 o'clock, let me know and give me the hook. But what I did is you've got I don't know if you received the quarterly report via email, but if you didn't, I'll make sure that you get one today. That won't be a problem. Quarterly report, this is a format that we utilize, and it's the same consistent format every quarter. And it's all through data that we input on a daily basis on our Teams program. That information is all collated and it's put into a format that's consistent. So it's not going to be narrative forms every quarter. And this is kind of for some of the newer people here. When you look at it, you'll see that you have the scope of tasks, you have the accomplishments, and then you have the objectives and strategies. And all of this falls in line with the strategic plan, so it all stays very consistent. So first off, marketing and recruitment, we commenced and continued on throughout the last quarter of a podcast called Moves That Matter. And this is a podcast that Brian Groves produces. Andy Marquis with Media Advantage helps us vector in what kind of topics and what things we should speak about, and kind of the format, and then the publication of this podcast. Andy would be able to speak about the distribution and how many links it gets, how many site visits it gets. But from what we are getting back from the public is that it's very informative and very helpful. This is a podcast that's done usually every week to 2 weeks, where we talk about the San Angelo economy, the regional economy, and just interesting facts about where we are as a community and where we're going. Business retention and expansion program. We have brought one project in this quarter, a tractionable project. This is Project Surge, S-U-R-G-E, and this is hair services, true lighting protection. And Bob and I've worked on this. You might be able to speak a little bit more about that, Bob, in detail if you want to later, if that's appropriate. This was an approved BRE contract for $300,000 incentive. What we really like about this is that if you read in the press, you'll see some really wild incentives given to companies throughout the country in the dozens of millions of dollars. And a lot of times not always, but a lot of times those incentives are meant just to attract that company and get their view off other competing markets. In this case, Project Surge, True Lighting, this is a company that really impressed us in that they have found a market niche that is untapped, and no one's doing it. Very few companies around North America are doing what they do. And this is surge protection, which seems kind of like something that would be an afterthought with any kind of specialized equipment that's put out on site in the field. But what Hare found is that it is in fact not. And so we really have a great belief that this is a company that's going to truly continue to grow, employ, and these are technical jobs too. There's some manual labor involved, but it's very technical, and we really believe in this project. So we feel very confident that the request and the consent that was given by COSA DC and the work that we've seen the DC team doing as we've handed this off to their purview, that's a winner. Marketing and recruitment. This is our forward-facing effort. So this is us, in the community, looking outward into the rest of the United States and into the world. We had a excellent site visit with a helicopter manufacturer in the DFW area, and we are in discussions about that with them on some pretty exciting things that they've got planned. And so we're probably getting ready to, in the next quarter, bring, it may not be a request for incentives, but it certainly would be, and I don't even like the word incentives. I really prefer to use the word assistance. I think incentives sounds wrong. I don't like that word, so strike that from the record. But assistance, if they need some help. And why would a company need assistance? Well, when they're making a big move and they're building, they're spending a lot of money, that money is going to take, those investments are going to take a long time to recapture. Sometimes having some assistance from a community is a great way to partner with that company so that you're taking a little bit of the edge off of all the expenditures that they're having to output in order just to get established in a new community. And that establishment would be for all the right reasons. And so with the example company that I just gave you a second ago, they are very interested in San Angelo and Mathis Field for a lot of the right reasons. Notwithstanding the new A&P school, the Airframe and Propulsion School that Howard College is doing a fantastic job with. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend you take a minute and go up to right next to Howard College on Porter Henderson, right next to the old Johnson & Johnson Endo Center. It's a fantastic facility. It's just amazing what they're doing, what they've stood up in 18 months. That does play a factor. And then on site selector prospect generation, Project Jefferson. This is the 35-acre land tract that is under contract with ATI Group. This is a company based out of Ames, Iowa. This is the company, the investment development company that we worked with during the Amazon transaction. And so that is underway. Now, once that is completed, there is another transaction that's related to that, and I'll get to that in just a second here. So once they've established themselves and closed that property in the industrial park, they're immediately going to enter into a lease with another large prospect. So it was kind of funny. We sold them the land in the industrial park to just do speculative development. During that process, another company approached us that we had sourced in the DFW area, and they said, "Boy, we really could use 15 or so acres. We'd really like to talk to you." So we immediately put them in touch with the developer out of Iowa, and they went off to the races. We also put on our quarterly report the deal pipeline. I'm not seeing a lot of yeses. It sounds like, did you not receive the quarterly? I'm going to get that to you. I'm going to email that out to the whole team here as soon as I get back to the office. I apologize. We'll make sure that gets out to you so that you can kind of follow along with what we're talking about here. But needless to say, on the report, we will track the strategic plan. So we have the key performance indicators, the KPIs, and you have the KPI list, the metric that we're basing that against. So that's the goals that we have for this season, the 26 season, and then the results. So if I go through business recruitment leads, the metric is 18. We have 11 so far this year. BRE, business retention expansion, that's 50 visits, 4 events. We have 3 down, and those 3 were out of town. Capital investment secured, $100 million. That's our target so far this year, is at almost $9 million in secured capital. Jobs created, 50. That's the goal that we all collectively set. We thought that was a good goal. 90, 8 so far. So that's 8 that are secured. And then we have workforce development partnerships. We do 4 meetings per year, and we've done 1 so far. And that also falls in line with the quarterly report that we publish, which is actually, interestingly enough, in a partnership. We thought this was kind of fun. We've started getting sponsors for our report because these are not terribly inexpensive to print and to go through all of the data and all of the different software programs that we use in order to get this data. So we actually got some really nice sponsors in our publication, which is not uncommon. We've got a lot of other sponsors that we see support such publications throughout the country, and we decided to get into that business too. What you see for San Angelo and what you'll see when I email this to you is that the economy is growing. It's growing about 0.5% per year. Unemployment's probably one of our biggest challenges. We're hovering at 3.1%. That's pretty close to a national average. To give you some context, 6% unemployment is considered by economists to be a healthy number. And the reason for that is because if you look at let's say a 6% unemployment number, half of that are kind of unemployable people. Those are people who may be tracked by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, but they're probably not able or frankly interested in really going forward in a career path. So if you take a 6%, you're really looking at about 3. So if we're looking at 3.1% unemployment in the San Angelo MSA, which is Tom Green County and Erie County, that's with the smallest MSA in Texas, you're looking at about a 1%. So that is why, and we've been asked this in recent quarters, the companies that we approach for recruitment and the companies that we work with locally, the BRE, the Business Retention Expansion, we're trying to find ways to help them automate and find companies that don't rely on a really heavy, large body of workforce. So we want to find enterprises that do lean towards quite a bit of automation. And so that's where we are right now. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Okay.
That's the presentation?
That's the presentation. I think we did it under 5 minutes.
That's good.
Do I have any more time? Will you yield back some more time to me?
I did, Michael, I did have one question. I'm a numbers guy, and I like to see the correlation between the budget, the finances that this board provides versus what you guys are pushing out, kind of the rate of return. Is it possible to get a copy of financials from you guys, and maybe you pass that off to Steve? But just so we can see the full picture, full correlation with dollars spent versus.
Yeah.
And this is exceptional. I'm not belittling this at all. I just like to connect full circle and see kind of how that all comes together.
We ran some numbers last year, so the 25 season, and we looked at the amount of dollars that COSA-DC contributes to the effort and what is the return on investment, and it was 601%. So something like that probably is where your focus is, I would guess. Sounds what are the dollars buying? Is it enough? Does it do what we want it to do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sure.
And, we had made the comment, when you guys came to us with the contract and the budget dollar amount, and I had said, I hope you guys are coming back to us in 6 months, explaining what you've done, what you've used, and asking for more, if necessary, of course. And so that's where I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to see where the dollars have been spent, what we've done, what we've got out of it over the last 3-4 months. Just to connect the dots.
No,
this is great.
We
Great
love doing
presentation.
that. I appreciate that kind of interest and engagement from you guys. That really helps a lot. Sometimes you do these reports and there are so many things on so many municipal managers and volunteers' minds. They might not really appreciate the returns and the creativity that we all collectively use. And I include the COSA-DC team on this too. So yes, we'll be more than happy to do that. All right, very good. That's all I have for this report.
Any other questions, comments?
I'll shoot that email to you. I'm going to get back to the office and I'll zing that email out to all of you so you have the quarterly and then, of course, the printed quarterly economic review. We'll get that out.
Perfect.
Thank you, Michael.
Great job. With that, we'll go into item C, discussion and possible action regarding COSA-DC funding, participation in the city's infill development incentive as it relates to the affordable housing and other potential funding of infrastructure authorized by Texas Municipal Code 505.153, projects related to affordable housing, presentation by Ryan Gaddy.
Good morning, Economic Development Board. Ryan Gaddy, Economic Development Director. Holly and I are going to kind of tag team this one. This is a follow-up to Director Lassiter's request whenever he presented what the Development Task Force had presented and had found. And he was inquiring about possible ways that we can support the Development Task Force. And so if we go back and look at the slides that were presented, we were looking at the infrastructure incentive program, and really what we're talking about here, I think, is trying to get more families qualified and assist in the funding for primarily affordable housing. Now, as you probably know, the ballot side of our plan includes about 335,000 of affordable housing. So what we would be looking at here would be to fund out of the economic development side through a project, this type of an effort. So I think Holly and legal reviewed what our opportunities were, and I think the answer is that we are able to fund some infill development and on the affordable housing side. Now, it will require a little more administrative effort because in order for it to qualify for the program, we have to determine whether or not the builder is building the house according to the criteria of affordable housing. Basically the size of the value of the property, but we also have to identify if the individual actually qualifies for affordable housing. So, and Bob has produced a slide here of what qualifies for affordable housing, and you can see whenever it gets down to it, it's really, we're looking at a house that's probably at about between 228,000 and 240,000. So the challenge is going to be to find builders who are willing to build at this level, and then qualifying the homeowner to qualify for this type of a house. So, the criteria for affordable housing is about 65% of the median household income is eligible for affordable housing. So, Holly, do you have anything to add, or is there any questions that you guys have that?
Ryan explained that beautifully, and I apologize. My voice is trying to run away from me today, but that is the federal statute that's kind of I don't want to say hiccup, but that's kind of what we have to go by because, and I guess where it gets tricky is how do you track who's going to be living in these homes? If you were to do a large scale type of development, how do you make sure that the people living in those homes are going to meet the standards set out by this federal statute? That's where you'd have to get creative with how you track finances and agreements and things of that nature. So the answer's not no, but it's tough. It would be tough to fund affordable housing because of this. Yeah, there's a way, but I don't know how you would track, like I said, who's supposed to live in those homes.
I've seen Laura's land use restriction. Are you familiar with Laura's?
No, I don't think I am actually.
So they encumber the land and provide parameters for restrictions like you're talking about on income.
Okay.
They're often used on tax credit projects that have affordable housing components.
Okay.
And there's a sunset. Maybe it's aligned with the capital structure of the investment. So 20 years, let's say, and they've secured financing that is contingent on these affordable restrictions. And so the LURA just says basically you have to operate within these guidelines over that 20-year period. And basically when the financing comes to you, the LURA expires, and it could go back to a market rate project at some point, many, many years down the road. The affordable payment calculation that you guys have run, I'm assuming that's based on like household income within our community, or?
I want to say it might even be based on the study that was done.
Yeah, actually, that is based on a 30%,
Mortgage.
basically a 30%, let me back up a little bit. They use that, this formula for rental.
Yes.
Say affordable rent is 30% of your family income,
Yes.
household income. That's what that number is based on.
Okay.
So if you had 95%, what am I got a slide missing here. Median income in San Angelo, I believe, is, and they base it on median.
Yeah.
I believe is about 65,000 per household. So 60, they base affordable on 65% of that. So
Okay.
that's where you get your, which comes out to about 42,000 a year per household. So 42,000 a year per household, and then 30% of that would be about that $1,000 or a little over $1,000 payment. And that payment there, that's just a general mortgage calculation.
Yeah, it's
30-year
principal and interest
mortgage.
only, and that's, you know,
And that's
there's
just
already a
P&I
gap.
also.
There's already a gap. And I think that taxes and insurance are usually calculated with the housing affordability
So
factor.
you're looking at probably another $600 a month
Yeah,
anyway?
it could be considerably higher than that. So, to me, what jumps off the page is that we have a pretty substantial gap in median home prices to affordability.
Yeah, the affordable, using their numbers, an affordable home, I mean, 228,000 is based on our median income. Even at 65,000 median, a $228,000 home is probably really pushing your limit.
I would say, like, coming out of this committee, me personally, I'm less interested in the infill piece. I think the city's doing a pretty good job of that. They're having some real success. They had some slides that they showed of how much income they've gotten back from that. In other words, it's been a good investment. But I think the infill area is limited, and I think the capacity there is limited. The real stumbling block, what I think, and it's not just, in my mind, affordable housing, but entry-level housing. In other words, not just, you know,
Yeah.
this is a piece of it, but we need to find entry-level housing that people that maybe aren't starving to death, but also can't get in a house, can do that, and it's the development. And I really think we could get creative. We've got a huge pile of money for water and tiny amounts for affordable housing. If we said we're gonna go find an area that is ripe for development and where we could fund the water, I don't think we want to get into managing people's individual mortgages and stuff like that as a group. The city's got departments to handle that. But if we could say we're gonna go in, because the infrastructure is what kills these guys. They can't build a new development affordably because of the cost to get the infrastructure in, the basic infrastructure. So I'm hoping that legally we could segue from water funds to saying we're gonna put a water system in an area ripe for development. In exchange, the developers will commit to X% entry-level housing or whatever it is. And we're find a creative way to come at that, because we've got this big pool of money that is limited to water, but all of this falls in our mission, I think. So I think there's some opportunity there. We're gonna have to get a little more creative about it. I think these new developments are the thing that can't be developed affordably.
And I think the tricky part to that is when it becomes residential, because we do have money for infrastructure, for, corporate and business-related ventures, but when it becomes residential, that's where our hands get kind of tied, so.
You think?
I think so.
You don't think that's economic development?
I mean, you could argue it to the
And we've
legislature
gotta
for
provide-
sure.
Right, but we've got to provide housing. To me, that it doesn't seem like that hard an argument to make. I'm sure it probably is in the legal realm.
No, I see the logic, I do. Yeah, and that's why we were trying to tie it to affordable housing. Is there a way to provide infrastructure to affordable housing? But then again, how do you track that it's being used for affordable housing? How do you track who's living there? And that's where it gets difficult. And like you said, you start getting into managing people's mortgages and things of that nature.
taken at face value, if we could develop a project where through deed restrictions or whatever, we could say, okay, these houses are going to sell for no more than that 228,000, the 95%. We could theoretically do that. That would have to come out of economic development funds. Obviously, what we have set aside for affordable housing isn't enough to cover anything like that, but it is an eligible expenditure under the 4B, for a 4B corporation, which is what we are. So we could do that, but we would have to have an agreement with somebody, whether that's a builder, a developer, whoever, or the individual homeowners, that says that that property is gonna remain, for at least for some period of time, eligible for that, under these guidelines. And if it's not, then we have to have a way of getting that money back. That's the two stipulations that the state makes on any agreement that we do, is there has to be a performance, it has to meet the whatever restrictions, and then we have to have a way to get the money back. So if we did it with a builder, that would be, builder sees the real estate market skyrocket or whatever, they could turn around and say, well, we're going to default on the agreement, we'll pay you back, and we're going to, so there's a lot of ifs out there. And it's not a real easy nut to crack, but I think there are maybe some options there. An affordable housing neighborhood, if you will, that's a single development. If we could deed restrict it that way, I think there might be something there. But we may wind up having to have an agreement within each individual homeowner, much like we do with Galilee now. But the possibilities, I think, are there.
Yeah, I would think we could outsource that piece to Galilee or to the city or whatever.
That's certainly one way to do it. It would have to be administered by somebody. And Galilee might be the logical answer.
Is there a cap on, this may be an ignorant question, but is there a cap on how much we're paying towards debt service for future water needs rights? I know we're paying a certain portion to the water department, is that correct? To help fund that debt service, can we pay more? Maybe Travis is where you're going. Can we pay more towards debt service to free up more water funds, that they have less strings, now they can circle back and help with water infrastructure?
Off the top of my head, I don't know, but I'll make a note to look at that, because that's a creative approach for sure.
And just to clarify, I think the staff's talking about using economic development fund dollars and not ballot dollars.
Not what dollars?
Correct?
That's my interpretation, based on what legal has told us in the past.
Yeah.
Is that the water fund is not eligible for projects of that nature. It's limited to water supply and water conservation only, I believe, is the general terminology.
I think you're right. It's been a minute since I've looked
So
at
then it gets into definition. What's the legal definition of water supply?
Yeah.
Maybe we can stretch it and say, if we're providing the infrastructure, not to the individual houses, but to an area, maybe that'll fall under water supply. I suppose it's worth
That's exactly what I'm
asking
talking
the
about.
question.
Like, for example, we said we're going to put the water in on the Twin Mountain project, and in exchange, we request that the city turn around and do affordable housing, like free up, as he correctly said, free up budget money in one area to do something else. And I don't think if you made an argument for something that's going to be developed, extensively in a 30-year window like Twin Mountain, that infrastructure's got to come from somewhere, and we sit here and the stumbling block is the 75 million, right? We said we're going to take that down by 10 and free up all this space for housing, and then somebody else can figure out how to flip those dollars into affordable housing.
Yeah, but the only thing is, when we do that, if we're doing it with the, not under affordable housing, but under the water supply limitation, then I think we would be we would probably be able to do that. But if you get into having to do it from the economic development side, then we have to somehow tighten up the restrictions to meet the affordable housing criteria.
Okay.
So I guess as far as the agenda item, as the Development Task Force continues to meet and come up with recommendations, maybe we can continue to pursue this item? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it falls in our mission. So I've been happy in some ways with what that committee's doing and unhappy in others. So, it's the staff's heart and under Vanoy's leadership is really in the right place. They're looking at some pretty radical, from a city perspective, changes that will allow this stuff to happen. Like these lot sizes have got to be smaller. So some of these rules have to be updated if we're going to be able to arrive at that number. But I don't think it's serving when we came out and we said, let's get a housing task force together, I don't think it's serving that. No, it's just not an outside the box, how are we going to transform housing in San Angelo kind of committee. They're just trying to rewrite the rules. And again, in an earnest and I think meaningful way, but I don't know that it's going to get at what we hoped for 2 months ago or whenever this came up and I got on that committee. But I think we need to continue to pressure them. Like, they've made a presentation to City Council this week, and from all the great ideas that were in that packet, they dumbed it down to the easy ones, like the risk-free ones. And I think some pressure needs to be put on both them and council to people got to take a chance on this.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to take some out-of-the-box thinking. I mean, it's the way it is now, I don't think the builders can build an affordable house.
I gave the example that first time I brought this up, that a guy was going to build 29 houses somewhere on the edge of town, new development, and the cost per lot for the development, just the water and sewer and all that, was $39,000 a lot. Well, you're no way you're going to get to 228 if you start. I'm talking about the land, just the infrastructure. And it's kind of a crazy backward system. Like, the city ought to be putting in that infrastructure. They can recoup the money, through property taxes and sewer and water rates. But it all falls on the developer. So, they've got to build $400,000 houses to get their money back.
All right. Is there any other, it's good, good conversation to have, and I agree. Lorenzo, I attend that meeting when I can as well, and it does seem like there's a consensus among the group, but then what gets conveyed past that, it seems to be a little different. So I think there needs to continue to be pressure from that committee and those folks to keep pushing and talk to their council members and communicate that. I think there's a creative way to get there. I think we just got to put all of our heads together and see what that looks like, so.
There is another alternative. We just get the wages up overall.
Right. Shane's got plenty of money, too. He can figure out something, right? Thank you for that presentation, that agenda item. Any other questions, comments on that item? All right, we'll go ahead and move to item D, public hearing and economic development agreement with the San Angelo Chamber of Commerce at an amount not to exceed $75,000 for promoting and supporting Goodfellow Air Force Base and continuing or enhancing its mission, a project authorized under Section 501-104 of the Texas Local Government Code, and recommending approval by City Council. Presentation, Bob Schneeman.
Morning, thank you. Bob Schneeman, Economic Development Project Manager. Cover this to begin with. A public hearing is required anytime we're going to enter into a project where we're using half-cent sales tax. And it's a Type B corporation shall hold at least one public hearing, which is what we're doing right now, on a proposed project before spending money to undertake the project. So the first project we're looking at is Goodfellow Air Force Base support. This is an agreement with Chamber of Commerce Military Affairs Committee. The board approved $75,000 for the project. It's to promote the Goodfellow Air Force Base interests to the federal and state government entities, organize events for military members assigned to Goodfellow, community orientation, and membership in key military and community associations. Basically, the idea is to provide community support to Goodfellow and to exhibit that community support to the federal and state officials to ensure the continued existence of Goodfellow as a military installation and to ensure they can continue to accomplish their mission. Goodfellow is a huge economic, has a huge economic impact on the city, and it's in our best interest to see that continue. Getting ahead of myself. So unless the board has any questions or comments, we can open the public hearing.
Questions, comments?
Is this the second reading of this? Are we down to the approval phase, or we got to do it again?
No, this will be it.
I move approval.
Yeah, we don't need a motion today. This is just for the public.
Okay.
And
Still not there yet.
do we have anybody signed up? No,
So there's no action by the committee on this item?
that's correct.
Okay, perfect.
So, Bob, just to clarify, there was a city council member who made the comment of these funds are reimbursement based, that there will be transparency and accountability regarding this 75,000. It's not just a blank check that, you know, they will submit receipts, they will be reviewed and reimbursed based on.
That's correct, and that will be included in the agreement. This will require a development agreement just like any other project.
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions, comments?
No.
Thank you, Bob. Move on to item E, which is also a public hearing. Public hearing regarding an economic development incentive agreement in an amount not to exceed $300,000 with True Lighting Protection LLC, a project authorized under Chapters 501 and 505 of the Texas Development Corporation Act, necessary to promote economic development and expand business enterprises which create or retain primary jobs, and recommending approval by City Council. Presentation, Bob Schneeman.
Thank you. Again, this is a public hearing required before we enter into a project or expend any money. And you've already heard a little bit about this project from Michael Looney earlier. I tend to agree with him. I think this is a really interesting project. It is an existing company that is expanding into basically a new line of business, or probably more accurately, it's a vertical expansion of their line of business. They have been manufacturing and installing certain components. I'm sorry, they have been manufacturing certain components. They're going to move into full manufacturing, assembly, and installation of lightning and static mitigation solutions. It's kind of a little higher tech approach to lightning protection than just a lightning rod up there. It's an array of sort of rods, dissipators, whatever you want to call them. I learned a long time ago to leave electricity alone. I don't know enough about it, so I'm just going to say that you've already heard the sum total of my understanding of it. They're currently operating as Hair Services. They manufacture, as I said, some of the components. They're going to do a capital investment of a total of $851,000 at least, and create 8 full-time positions. That's what the agreement with them will be based on. And they have an average salary of, an average wage of $58,750. They're estimating that particularly their sales people, will be looking at more like $75,000 a year and up. This is something that has to be used in basically at every well site in the Permian Basin, and there's lots of them out there. So we also had SBDC take a look at their business plan. They compared it to other like industries and felt good about their projections. So that's the gist of that. The proposed incentive is $300,000 a year for capital investment and job creation. It will have a 10-year economic impact of $15 million, and our return on investment is 5.2 years, or basically 19.3% annual. Ready to open the public hearing unless the board has any questions or comments.
Did you say it's $300,000 a year or $300,000 for the project?
Total, $300,000 total. And we will that will be split between so much for capital investment and so much for job creation.
Any other questions, comments?
No, sir.
And
Do
no
we have
public-
anybody signed up, Nora?
No public comment? All right. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
With that, we'll move to item F, consider authorizing the board president to negotiate and execute a marketing contract with Media Advantage LLC for marketing services as follows. Number one, not to exceed $38,700 for business plan competition, social media, annual report, annual website maintenance, and website hosting cost. And number two, not to exceed $50,750 for SEO, AEO, website updates and case studies, branding updates and rollout, national target industry campaign, site selector targeted campaign, and airport promotional video. And recommending approval by City Council. Presentation, Ryan Gaddy.
Good morning again. Ryan Gaddy, Economic Development Director. The marketing agreement that we have currently with Media Advantage expired in September, at the end of September. So currently we don't have an agreement in place. So the purpose of this agenda item is to approve a budget or an actual agreement amount so that we can go forward with getting a new agreement created and signed so that we can restart those marketing services. We put them on halt until we get the agreement in place. As you noted, there's the base agreement that we have that is consistent with the prior agreement is for $38,700, and that gets us the basic marketing and advertising services that we've had for the past 3 years. It includes $10,000 for the business plan competition, marketing and advertising. The annual report that we are required to prepare in the first quarter or thereabouts is another $5,000. And then the website hosting cost is $6,000. And then the remainder of $17,700 is for and I think I have these up here, right? Yeah. And the remainder of it is for just social media and general advertising that is provided for us by Media Advantage. So,
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Okay.
Is there any paid content, paid advertising that's part of the social media?
Andy, you want to? Sure. Andy is prepared to talk about all the particulars.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's good.
Good morning, Andy Marquis, Media Advantage. I actually prepared a memo with some explanations and some documents for you guys.
Thanks, Andy.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay, so I know there's going to be some questions surrounding some of the elements in the base budget. And so to answer the first question, there is some paid advertising in the $32,000 budget. So we are posting on social media consistently and doing some boosts and some different small buys within social media, but we're also doing things like Advancing Angelo, which is a program that we have in partnership with Concho Valley Homepage. There's different local advertising elements that we're doing from a community perspective from a paid sense, but as you know, 32,000 doesn't go very far, and our target audience isn't necessarily local unless we're targeting a BREP campaign. And so the business plan competition, that 10,000 is what has been earmarked historically, and that is all paid advertising surrounding the business plan competition. Now, if I may go into the annual website hosting information. So I did, in your packet, also attach the original master service agreement on the website. So that essentially does cover the ownership of the website as well as our annual maintenance agreement, which we are required to commit to for several years through ED Suite, the vendor. And so on the memo I gave you, if you look at the back page, it does have that support services more itemized with explanations of what that cost is. And most of the support services does go directly to the ED Suite vendor. That is not something that Media Advantage is keeping in-house.
Andy, and that agreement has not expired. I think that agreement was signed in November of '24, so it's still active. So really what we're talking about, I think, is the 32.7. Is that?
Correct. So I think when you guys were budgeting for this next cycle, that $6,000 maybe wasn't taken into account as an additional expense that was planned. Per that MSA, this is a commitment we've made. And previous leadership had the vision to partner with a vendor that essentially in a couple of years, we're going to have a whole new homepage that comes with this annual website agreement so that our online presence continues to stay fresh and we are not having to come to you guys for $40,000 in 3 years for a new website, which we're seeing consistently, a need for to stay competitive.
Okay, so just to clarify, the master service agreement that we have a copy of is the $6,000 annual website maintenance and hosting cost.
Yes, sir.
The $32,700 is not reflected in our current budget.
Yes, it is reflected, correct.
It is reflected. Are both of these expenses reflected in our current budget?
I don't believe the $6,000 is reflected in your current budget.
Got it. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And it's not in the $32,700?
Historically, no. We have
Okay.
used that for everything else, which I can definitely give you a copy of that budget worksheet.
Okay.
There's not a lot of wiggle room to add the 6 in.
Got it.
Yeah, I think when we prepared the budget, we didn't incorporate the 6,000, but we intended to. I mean, it was just an oversight on our part.
Understand.
So,
Do we have, was there a contract in place? You mentioned that we had a contract that expired in September.
yes, that's correct.
What was the amount of that contract?
The 32.7,
It's the same amount.
correct.
Okay. All right, so the request is to have, to run it back at 32.7 and add the 6,000 that's not in our budget for the annual maintenance. Right. Right.
I think we need to make a correction.
Yep.
So we have enough coverage in the budget, okay. Yeah, Jonathan just confirmed that we do have adequate coverage in the budget for both items.
So we have 38.7 in the budget?
Actually, we have a
Okay.
little bit more, so. yeah.
Okay. What do we have in the budget?
We have. Yeah, we have the 32.7 plus another 10,000 that was budgeted as a component within the business plan line item.
Okay.
Historically, we've just wrapped that into our 32.
Got it. So we would have, if we funded the 38.7 request for the basic annual contracts, we'd still have 4,000 in additional within our budget for advertising.
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct. And technically, the 6,000 for the annual website maintenance, it's already, we already have an agreement in place for that.
Right. I see. Yeah. Got it.
Okay, so that's the first component of what the agenda item covers. We met with Andy, and she shared with us some ideas about what we might look going forward. And, I'd like for you to consider what Andy has to offer and maybe either today or in the upcoming future, we take into consideration what what her plans are. And whoops. This is kind of what she's talking about, is some additional items for consideration. And those can either be considered and approved individually, or they can be, approved collectively, or however you prefer to pursue.
Yes, if I may. In conversations, to your point, Mr. Stribling pointing out that we don't have a lot of area of opportunity for paid advertising and to go after and support the sales efforts of Mr. Looney. And so we had some conversations about what that would look like, what our wish list would be. And so the first topic is what's called SEO and AEO, so search engine optimization and answer engine optimization. And what's important, and so going back to our regular maintenance and contract, that includes website updates, board meetings, quality of life, changing out pictures. However, we need to have some budget to do work on the back end to make sure that our website is coming up when it's being searched on a national level. So for instance, even locally, because of the economic development presence in San Angelo, there's a few different platforms, which we'll talk about that here in a second. And so it's even kind of difficult to find our website in our own market. And so if we are wanting to come up on certain searches, technology focused or energy focused, we want to make sure that the economic development site comes up during those particular searches. What we're also finding with our business clients is that answer engine optimization is being elevated, and that we need to make sure that we're coming up whenever questions are asked to those different avenues. So that was just the first area of opportunity. We have also talked about really honing in and doing more video case studies. So when it comes to logistics, highlighting Allen's Transport and different organizations that we've supported, and just showing that essentially that case study of how we may have worked in workforce development or how we've found solutions for that potential business. So those are things that we would want to add to the website as well. So I'll pause if you guys have any questions on that line A. Okay, and item B. So there has been some conversations expressed to me from board members as well as leadership about potentially developing a stronger brand for COSA DC, perhaps a tagline. Our neighbors have taglines and brands like that. First one, Develop Abilene comes to mind. And so what does that look like for San Angelo? Those are conversations that we, of course, want to have with you guys. And, perhaps there's committees formed to address this. There's also some, confusion when it comes to outsiders looking at our presence maybe on the chamber versus our own standalone website versus what's on the city. And so working together with those entities and making sure there's different value to those pages and that they all have the same messaging. I think that that's really important in an area of opportunity that Mr. Gaddy knows as well, is that the messaging could really be betterly cohesive in those different areas. So we don't, we just put a number there with some ideas that we had spoken internally. Again, these are just buckets for us to have per discussion if that's something that we want to pursue. The next item is considering if we want to target a specific industry. Again, this would be with the guidance of this board and leadership, but I'll give the example. If we are targeting the energy industry and we would like to have certain businesses come into San Angelo that might complement other businesses we have, then we can target them through geofencing, through publications that are industry related, and having a budget to do that is what we are proposing. And so then the next item is, again, thinking of our audience and who we would market to. Site selector is a big part of that. There are different areas to reach somebody who holds that title. There's different ways to do that. There's a Site Selector magazine publication that comes out every month. And just thinking about if we were to run an ad in that alone, that could be over $1,000 a month. So $12,000 to do a Site Selector targeted campaign is very conservative. Then the last thing that we put on our wish list, and this has been something that we've had since last year, and I know Mr. Groves shares this wish list with us and would be a partner in this initiative if we were to move forward with it. But our airport is amazing. There's so many new and different things there that people really don't know about. And so we wanted to propose a full promotional airport video. And this is, we would partner with our partners by the Stream Media, and then of course the city of San Angelo, and really develop this. I could see this video being 30 minutes long with different segments to it. For example, as we know, we have an amazing flight school, and we've done a little bit of video already on that for our previous annual report. We've got the Skyline Aviation. We have the new San Angelo Jet Center, Ranger Aviation. We have the Goodfellow presence there. We have the new mechanical contracts. There's runways expansions. There's U.S. Customs Border Patrol. We have a rich airport history that I don't know that people know about. And then, of course, we have a lot coming in the future for our airport. And so we thought that this might be a great time to start this promotional video and really show what we have here in San Angelo. So again, these were just thoughts that we wanted to propose, and perhaps this is something that we look at together in a workshop, or if you guys are really excited about this direction, could be something that we move forward with today, but of course, work together to really define what the itemized things are within each budget.
Any questions, comments?
I think my question might be for Ryan. In our packet here, under financial impact, it says $56,750 from future projects, $32,700 previously budgeted. So I think the $56,750 is all of the optional additional items for consideration.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And the 32.7 plus the 6,000 is separate from that.
Correct.
Okay.
And there is, there's a sense of urgency, obviously, on the first component, because
Sure.
right now, we don't
have an
we're not
agreement.
authorized to engage Andy and pay her for the services that she's providing or about to provide, so. Now, one thing,
If I may, I know there may be an urgency to get something on the books to get immediate advantage under contract, but it may be a topic for a workshop, because I would like to see myself what is being spent on the chamber side, what services Media Advantages is providing to the chamber versus what is being provided to Costa DC. Just since we're going now and changing our scope and our relationship to kind of work together as a unit with chamber, and if I'm wrong there, that may just be my misunderstanding, but how we can unify those services and message to reach a bigger field, bigger scope. So that's something that I would be interested in listening to and hearing before we delve down into this
Mr.
to
Rodriguez, I can
understand
answer
this a
that
little
right
more.
now. So we, from an economic development standpoint, we're contracted from the chamber to produce and manage the Moves That Matter podcast. And so that expense does come out of the economic development budget. Our other relationship with the chamber is as the communications agency for the chamber as a whole. And so that includes the communications for the chamber, which includes social media, email, graphic design, and things like that. So that would be for the chamber as a whole, which would include economic development. So that's currently what we're contracted to do with the chamber.
Thank you. Want to make sure that's on. Yeah, and that's fine. I just want to see what overlaps as well. Website hosting, website design, website synergy, for example, if that's part of the marketing. SEO, search engine marketing, has an organic component, has a paid advertising component. With the algorithms, Google, what it reaches, who's searching for economic development in certain communities, and where we're reaching. I understand geofencing. Geofencing a lot of times has to do, in my understanding, it's certain areas target advertising that has to do with search engine optimization. People look at their phone, look for a site, and ads come up, and that is a targeted advertising. So those are components I want to see what is.
Yes, sir. So those would fall under the second budget overlap potential, I think is what you're saying. The first contract, the 32.7, as well as the 6, there really isn't overlap to that. That contract is something that we've had for the past 3 years. And so from a social media standpoint, from managing the business plan competition budget and just the day-to-day, that's operationally, that 32,000 is what that is. Definitely, if you guys are wanting to table that, we can definitely explore that, but this is something that has been an operational advertising budget for this organization since before I'm there. And, you know, just to be completely transparent, we have continued social media services so that there was not a delay in that. And so we have been continuing to provide that service, no additional services since the contract expired.
It would seem to me like we need to approve one. There's no reason to be going without a contract or services. And then I'm with Carlos. I would like to flesh the item 2 out more, and maybe that's a better slotted to the strategic planning. So I would be in favor of getting 1 out of the way now, authorizing the president to go forward with that contract, and then addressing item 2 as a group. Y'all hate it?
No, and just to add to a lot of what Carlos was saying, I think where you're going as well, is, you know, we have to be very cognizant of these tax dollars and have to look and have the transparency and accountability. And I totally agree with Carlos in the sense of what can we collaboratively get together with the chamber. You know, with their contract, there was a roughly $13,000 item that includes branding, marketing. You know, where are we overlapping? What can we streamline and work together? Is that having just one website as opposed to 2 that bounce back and forth? And you know, I think there's more to look at, but I also agree with you, Lorenzo, in a sense of I think the number 1 item is important, and then we maybe take the second item to our work session and dig through. Because again, I think we really need to look at this, and appreciate all the numbers, Andy, that you provide. That is extremely helpful to go through line by line and see exactly where these dollars are going and where they're spent. It just helps bring the full picture together, so.
Can absolutely get more granular if y'all request that. And the last comment I wanted to make when you guys are exploring the idea of does it need to be 1 website or 2, you know, the Chamber Economic Development does also encompass the county. And so that, for me, would be a tricky thing to represent if it did go to 1 website and 1 presence from an economic development standpoint. So just wanted to make that statement for you guys to percolate on as we.
To me, the one that muddies the water more is the city version of our website, like, because there's 3 essentially, right? Chamber, city, and ours, and the city
sir.
one is like really hard to get at. And so, you know, I would like to see, like in y'all's signatures, that it's the new website under your signature and everything is linking to the new one, which I think you guys did a great job on. So I think separating ourselves from city marketing, which is cumbersome, for lack of a better word, I think would serve us well.
Great observation. I know Mr. Groves is open to those conversations and how we could do that. So.
I'm cognizant of operating without a contract. I don't think we ever intended to get into the position that we're in right now, where we've had a contract that's been expired for 3 months. And I hope that we don't put ourselves in that situation again. And I appreciate the effort that you've made to kind of carry us forward until we can get this worked out. I hate to go without an advertising agreement in place because of how important it is. So, man, I'm mindful of that. I also understand Carlos's concerns about especially these additional items and any overlap.
We're not going
I think we're in
anywhere.
a tough spot.
If you guys, wanted to pause and really, table this, that's fine. It's not ideal, but we do want you to feel confident about the solution and confident about us. And so we will continue to support you guys while y'all are in that process, so.
And Mark, and I'm not trying to, Andy, throw a wrench into things. I just really want to understand where the dollars are going and what is being spent where. So it's not a criticism of you, it's really just trying to understand what kind of contract we're getting ourselves into as to everybody's expressed their concern. These are tax dollars that we're dealing with, so we want to be mindful of that. And, it may be something we put on the agenda and work to a quick resolution. Because I know that's something you want, something the chamber would want, something the COSA DC would want. So I appreciate your time. Thank you for that presentation.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? So I'll entertain a motion of any kind at this point.
I move that we authorize the president to execute item 1 and then we push item 2 to the strategic planning session.
So I've got a motion to accept 1 as presented. Do I have a second?
I will second that.
So we've got a motion on the table and a second to approve the number 1 item only, not to exceed $38,700 for business plan, competition, social media, annual report, annual website maintenance, and website hosting cost. So we've got a motion, got a second on the table. Go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed?
Opposed?
Nay. So we have 3-2, motion fails. We'll go ahead and entertain a different motion, tabling, or?
I'd like to make a motion to continue it to next month's meeting.
Second.
So we've got a motion to table, and we've got a second to go ahead and table the full item, or are you tabling, would you like to clarify your motion?
I'll table the full item for now.
Second.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and we've got a motion and a second to table full item F on the agenda, items 1 and 2. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. We will table this to a next month's meeting, if we can get that on the agenda.
I'm looking at, excuse me, I'm looking at Nora over here. Maybe we need a little clarification on what just happened. We had a motion.
We have a motion and a second. Motion passed to
So what
table.
so what excuse me. So what I'm hearing is that the 3 of you said yes, but both of you said no, and now we're voting to move this item to the next
It
meeting.
was a 3-2 vote in opposition of approving item 1. We had 2 yeas, 3 nays on the first motion. Second motion was to table, and we had a 5-0 vote to table.
Got it.
So the first motion was to oppose.
To approve.
The first motion was to approve item 1 as presented,
Right. And that passed?
and it failed.
Failed.
It failed
That's what
2 to 3.
That's what I had thought.
2 in favor, 3 in opposition of accepting 1 as presented. Then we had a motion to table, and it was approved 5-0.
Okay.
Good? Clear as mud? Andy, thank you. Should she took off. But appreciate the presentation and the information. We look forward to a little more clarification and information on that item for the next agenda. With that, we'll move to item G, discussion regarding the strategic planning workshop. Presentation by Ryan.
Yeah, that's a good segue into this item. The board generally has a strategic planning workshop in the May timeframe, and I'm requesting that we move that up to the February timeframe so that we can go into a lot more detail and in depth in terms of, what, basically to create a strategic plan, kind of for a roadmap for us. And we would include all of the economic development partners in that conversation. And we would, that would be a good opportunity for us to work closer with the Chamber Economic Development team and the advertising folks to make sure that we're all on the same mission. So typically, or some of the different possibilities are, well, these are some of the things that we would talk about, the target industries that we want to focus on, business retention and expansion, affordable housing, airport, the railport, the industrial park, the Northeast plan that's underway, and then, of course, like the marketing plan, the website coordinated with the Chamber Economic Developers, and then just a quick update on the bylaws and if there's a need to update them and any other topics that we might have. So this would give us an opportunity to kind of gather our thoughts and come to a consensus in terms of where we want to go going forward. Some of the different dates that are available, with the city council meetings, our economic development board meeting is on Wednesday, February the 11th. I would recommend that we add some time to the back end of that meeting and go into the discussion on a strategic plan. So that would be my recommendation.
How much time would you like to allocate for the workshop?
I would like to allocate 2 to 3 hours.
Okay.
I'll have an agenda, I'll have the presenters, and, I'll touch base with each of you beforehand to see if there's anything that you want to cover specifically. And then we'll try to keep the meeting on track and try to get done by noon.
I like doing it in conjunction with this meeting next month.
Yeah, I'm great with it.
I agree.
Okay?
February 11th looks fine with me. Sooner the better.
Yeah, it's a good idea to do it quicker. You being new and
Yeah.
let's reset the agenda.
And I think, we've been without a strategic plan for a period of time, and I think it's important for us to all be marching down the same path based on everybody's expectations and so forth. So do we need any action, or is this more of an administrative thing?
Sounds administrative.
Just okay. Good, then we'll work on the agenda, and we'll get something out to you, and we'll probably try to schedule some time with each of you individually to kind of see if what we're doing is consistent with what you'd like.
Perfect. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate that.
Bet.
With that, we'll go ahead and go into executive session, closed session at 10:06, January 20th. Executive session under the provision of Government Code Title V, Open Government Ethics, Subtitle A, Open Government, Chapter 551, Open Meetings, Subchapter D, exceptions to requirement that meetings be open under the following sections. Section 551072, deliberations about real property regarding the sale of 8.48 acres at the industrial park to DLH Real Estate LLC. Item B, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney regarding legal issues related to the Cosa DC Chamber of Commerce Professional Services Performance Agreement. Again, it is 10:06, January 20th. We'll go into executive closed session. It is 11:22, January 20th. We are coming out of executive session, closed session. We do have an agenda item to bring out to open session. Item A, Section 551.072, deliberation about real property regarding the sale of 8.48 acres at the industrial park to DLH Real Estate LLC. Bob?
Thank you. This is an 8.5 acre, basically, parcel of land at the industrial park. I'll show you a location map here in just a minute. The proposed purchase price is $370,000 total. That puts it about $43,600 an acre, which is a little below our appraised value for the low-end properties at $48,000. However, there is about between 14 and 18,000 cubic yards of dirt stockpiled on the property that for them to use the property, we would have to remove it. They have agreed to accept that dirt as part of the agreement at their current sales price, which I would recommend that we accept. I thought I had a location map, but I don't. So at this time, it's located immediately across Gateway Drive from the current AEP property, and it's from Gateway Drive to the existing overhead power easement.
Okay, appreciate that. So discussion that we had on that, is there any other comments, questions, concerns?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, do we have a second?
Second.
So we've got a motion and a second to approve the sale of the real property, 8.48 acres at $42,000 an acre, and allowing the purchaser to assume 43,632, is that correct, Bob?
Yeah, we'll just go with the lump sum price of $370,000.
Okay, lump sum price of $370,000, and the buyer will assume that liability of disposing of the dirt within the sale. So we've got a motion, got a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
All right, thank you.
We'll move into follow-up and administrative issues. Consideration, item A, consideration of possible actions of items discussed in closed session if needed. We have done that. B, announcement and consideration of future agenda items. I believe one of which would be the marketing contract with Media Advantage. Are there any other announcements or future agenda items or anything that you guys would like to have on there?
Nope.
Seeing none, so we will have our strategic planning meeting following the next month's meeting on February 11th. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have adjourned, 11:26. Thank you.